Welcome back to the Ride Out Culture Exchange Race BMX show. If you saw the last episode, you saw Dave Volker mention a man by the name of Toby Henderson. If you saw the very first episode ever at Big Wheels Bicycle with Kendall Crabtree, you saw him mention Toby Henderson. That's how he got his current bike.
They talked me into it. SE ended up giving me like a free pass. They paid my way, gave me a pair of old leathers. This guy was a racer, Toby Henderson. They sent me a pair of his old leathers, took his name off.
Toby is currently the president of BOX B.M.X. And if you watch episode 1 with Kendall from Big Wheels Bicycles, the bike that Kendall rides today was a frame that Toby Henderson threw in the garbage because he didn't like it.
No way.
And Kendall scooted over there and dragged that thing out of the garbage and rides it to this day.
What are you riding now?
Yep. I currently ride a 1993 Iron Horse prototype frame that was made for Toby Henderson.
Oh, really?
I worked at Iron Horse at that time, and Toby didn't like the way it rode and threw it aside, and I walked behind him and took it and put it in my car, and I still have it today.
Wow.
Then when I was doing the first episode, I know the name from you as a legendary BMX rider when I was a kid. I was like, Toby Henderson, you got your bike from Toby Henderson? So I Googled you up to have some backup information for the show. And then I found out Toby Henderson is the president and partner of BOX.
Yeah, that's us here, yeah.
Yes. And that's the brake that we're all using right now on the ride outs. And this is the Ride Out Culture Exchange. And it blew my mind because as much as I knew about BMX, that brought it all together. Nobody left. You know, you may have stopped being on the track, but here you are building the things that are keeping this generation on the track.
I don't know anything else to do but do BMX, right? I've been doing it my whole life. I'm well in my 50s at this point. Been doing it 45 years, I guess, now at this thing. And when I quit racing in 1998, my mountain bike career, I started making bike products. It's what I wanted to do since I was 12. And here we are making more bike products. It's been doing it for like the last 20 years. So
yeah, and what was that first brand? Iron Horse?
Well, Iron Horse was a company I rode for towards the end of my career.
Okay.
Then Giant was the last sponsor I had, Giant Bicycles. But I started with a company called THE, Toby Henderson Enterprises. And I wanted to be a successful helmet company. Then I did Intense BMX, Signs BMX.
I have to stop us. I'm sorry. Oh, no, we're still running. Okay.
We're still running. So anyway, I started all these brands. And anyway, so I sold that company off in 2011. And 2012, we started BOX Components. So almost 10 years, or 8 years now.
Okay, one thing that brought your existence together for me, you also were doing, you seem like you've done a lot of mergers with different bike companies, or whatever that's called, collaborations.
Yeah, so this company, we're kind of a component brand. So what we're doing is we're working with frame manufacturers to create better product, right? So right now our current company is called Mabo. We worked with Thrill in the past, but basically we're component suppliers or OEM supplier to the frame guys, right?
But in the past, you designed for 5 years, you did frames for Intense.
Yeah, so that was my other company. So at one point I had a royalty agreement with Intense.
Okay.
So that's how that, because I used to ride for Intense, another long story. But no, I had a company called VSI, which owned THE, Signs, Intense Tire. We had all these brands at one point, and I sold that off.
Well, one thing for me, I was looking at the Intense frames one day, and I was like, I think they're doing a 24, and I don't know if you were involved still at this point, but it still had the same style. And I'm like, that bike would look great with BOX parts. They both have the same space age.
Guy.
Yeah, and I'm like, they have the same space age look. So I Googled that up too, and I'm like, well, this explains a lot. Like, Toby is BOX, and he was the Intense frame, and that's why they would go so well together. So
Intense was a huge success. We were Bike of the Year 5 times in a row, which has never been done in the history of the sport.
I didn't know that.
We were completely different when we first came out with the bike with the curved top tube, and everybody thought it looked like a spaceship. We got teased a lot, but it wound up being a huge success. We were selling thousands and thousands and thousands of those bikes a year, and it was a really good deal for us. Yeah.
Well, this might be an overstep. When I looked at it, though, you know, a lot of people are into like bikes that are replicas of 1988, but I was looking at yours, and I'm like, they look more like early 2000s BMX bikes to me. But I mean, maybe that wasn't, you know, I think you were ahead of that anyway,
I
right?
don't know. It's just like, you know, I never kept any of my old stuff. Never did. I wish I would have. Like my Hutch bikes are worth a lot of money now, and my uniforms are worth a lot of money. I never kept this stuff. I always looked to the future and wanted more futuristic stuff. So when I design thinking ahead and how to make the guy go faster, right? So our new oversized technology for BMX is something we do that make the guy go faster. It's all to me about winning the race, right?
Yeah.
So,
Are you into lightness? Because everything you have is very light.
yeah, of course. So even with the oversized technology, you're able to build a lighter product too as well. So they're just not cheap, right? So, in the bike industry, you pick two of three. You know that story?
No.
So you want light, you want strong, and you want cheap.
Okay.
Pick two.
Yeah, because the cheaper it is,
you
the
guys
heavier.
have never heard that. Come on, yeah.
I picked up some very inexpensive, very heavy bikes.
Yeah,
So that makes perfect sense.
Uh,
I have to ask for those of us that watch this, will you ever be involved in a 29er BMX bike? I mean,
it's a funny question. Yeah, we're working on some stuff.
okay, good.
Yeah, it's you won't see it till next year, but yeah, we are working on some stuff. Like I said, you told me today we're really starting to infiltrate the 4130 guys and the rides and stuff. I knew we were doing okay there, but I didn't know we were as much in it as we thought we were. So, anyways, that's good. That's good news.
Yeah, well, I mean, this sounds like a commercial, but this isn't. Your product is reasonably priced, works better than almost all the other products, looks great, and it's just the best one,
And we have colors too. I know you guys like the colors, right? So we do that too, right?
I mean, I've been riding black bikes for so long, but
we gotta have colors.
I have been fantasizing that I have to go the color route on the next bike. What made you be able to pull those V-brakes together? Like, why are they so tight? They really work much better than a lot of other V-brakes. I mean, it's all just a stick if you're an amateur staring at it. What's the difference?
Well, I think we're really lucky. So when I sold the other company, we got a bunch of cash. And we decided when we started this company that we're going to tool up for everything. A lot of things you see in bikes, and complete bikes especially, are things somewhat what we say buy off the shelf, not really developed from the ground up. So when we started BOX, the goal was to develop every product from the ground up. So everything you see from us, we made ourselves, engineered ourselves, and bought the tooling for ourselves.
Okay.
But during that process, we're able to go and make the best brake what we thought we could, based upon the geometry and the shapes that we had, because we had an unlimited tooling budget, basically. So I want to say it's just because we had the budget to do the right thing from the beginning, where a lot of people aren't that lucky. Whatever.
So the short version is you've chosen a great geometry for the V-brake that's making it so efficient?
Yeah, I think it's when it and the arms that bolt that together. So on the BOX 1 brake, it has titanium bolts. It's got a precision bearing around the outside. It's got a brace that goes up around the shape, which holds the two arms from flexing. The way we hook the cable in, the way we use a flexible noodle. There's so much about that. Our brake pads have 3 compounds. Our brake pad holders are machined out. I mean, there's just a ton of work.
So there's 3 different compounds in the pad.
In the pad itself, yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to ask for the technical version, but is it like a wet, a dry, a mountain? But like, what is?
No, it's a soft, harder, soft. So basically, as the brake pad touches, you get a hard compound, then a soft compound to grab the middle, then a hard one to get our medium one at the end. So it's hard, soft, medium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I have them on my front, and there's not as many front brake riders out there. But I can pull up to, the crosswalk when everybody else is stopping, just touch it just right and be up on my front wheel for a little while. No squeaks. It's just great. Just love your brake.
The cables and the cable housing all have something to do with that. We use a derailleur housing versus a brake housing. So the strands of the cable are running straight versus coiled this way. That gives us a stronger pull position on it. So there's a lot of things that went into that. Like I said, we're just kind of lucky to have the time to build the right thing. Yeah.
I didn't realize the subtleties.
Yeah.
I do know that when I was sick of the brake I had and I was asking around, I'm like, you guys, what's the best all around brake? And everyone's like, BOX, just get BOX. Yeah, get a BOX brake. And then a couple years later, my brother's like, what brake should I get? And I'm like, BOX, get a BOX. Just get a BOX brake. Don't ask questions. And he loves his BOX brakes too.
Oh, cool.
I also think your handlebars look fantastic and futuristic. You obviously have a style that's carried through everything you've designed for all the different companies you've worked for, right? I mean, spaceship futuristic is almost you.
I want to say it's 20 years of racing. I mean, when I race, I always needed something to go faster. So my brain was thinking, how do I go faster? How do I feel more comfortable? How do I become more in touch with the bike or be in tune with the bike? So as I was starting to develop products later in life, those things are still there. I ride almost every day. But I still ride a lot. Yes,
what do you ride every day? That's
I'm riding e-bikes now. Sorry, guys. I'm an e-bike guy. So,
all right, we're just going to end the episode right here. It's done.
Anyway, I've been riding a lot of those. But during that time, I mean, just the oversized handlebar like you're talking about. So we started creating oversized technology, which I learned from my mountain bike career. So when I rode a BMX bike, 10 millimeter axles is what we had. So I started my mountain bike career with 10 millimeter axles, but we changed to 20 at one point. And the first time I went down the hill on a 20 millimeter axle, and this is so much better than the 10, it's just the rigidity and the stiffness. So I just started carrying that, learning all that from my mountain bike career into the BMX parts. So that's the handlebar you're talking about.
A common conversation that we have, that this is what I always throw in. Mountain bikes, they just make better stuff. Like BMX, with the exception of, what you're doing in a few companies, BMX is always like the last part on the list of good quality parts. Like all the hubs go to the mountain bikes, and then we get whatever's left over in the world of BMX. But you're saying that you don't do it that way.
No, we actually started with BMX, and we actually knew we were going to go into mountain biking, which you can tell around here we have a lot of mountain bikes. But we started with BMX, and we wanted to build the best BMX stuff. And we started off there. And with my mountain bike background, I was able to go through the technology phase when the mountain bikes went from 0 travel to 8 inches. I was there that whole time, got to be a part of that whole development. So when I started building product, I wanted to bring some of that knowledge over to that. So in our BMX stuff, you see a lot of that, what I learned from my mountain bike career in there. And the reason why other companies don't pay attention to it, because it's kind of the smaller pie in the bicycle industry, BMX is, right?
Yes.
I just haven't been in it my whole life. I know it really well. And so we just kind of do that around here. And we sell a lot of stuff here. You can tell by what's going on here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of product being moved around, right?
Well, you do sound like a scientist compared to a lot of the BMX guys.
I don't know about that. I'm a bike guy who rode his bike a lot and likes to make parts.
Okay, I'm not saying scientist for a scientist, but compared to the BMX guys, you are a scientist. So that's where it really came from. You were just a guy on the bike, and your head went to the right place, and you were always thinking of
how to go faster.
How to go faster. Yeah. And how long were you a champion for? I mean, you did 10. How many years of BMX?
I did BMX about 9 years. So
9?
Yeah, so almost 10 years. And then my mountain bike career kind of came because BMX started dying off, went to freestyle. Then I started picking up on mountain biking. I struggled with mountain biking about 3 years. I got really fit, lost a bunch of weight, went from a sprinter to a long distance guy, but that was cross country. And I really wasn't doing that well. Then one day downhill came in. So I had the fitness for my cross country, and I had the skills of a BMX guy, and it all came together. And I started winning downhill races and started becoming Downhill Mania champion and all these other things.
You're not the only BMX guy that did that,
no,
right?
No, Lopes, King, Coley, there's a bunch of us.
All right.
Carter,
what is your grade of BMX? Like, who are the other names like yourself that were reigning in the BMX tracks when you were?
So my day was Stuart Thompson, Greg
Stuart Thompson,
Gill,
okay.
Harry Kramer, Harry Larry, Tommy Brackens. I'm going to miss a bunch of guys that were tough to beat for sure. But there was Jeff Rumener. There was a lot of guys that were tough at my time. But basically 1980 to 85-ish when it was not easy to win races.
Okay. For 1 month, Harry Larry lived down the street from me when I was a little kid. And every little kid on the block would be on his front lawn on Saturday morning. Yeah. It was my first ride out.
Right.
So those were the guys you were competing against, huh?
That's my era, yeah.
That's pretty much when you call it the original era of BMX?
I'm a little younger than a lot of those names we said, but I think there was a group of guys like Dave Clinton, John George, Bobby Encinas that were a little bit before me. So even Stuart was a part of that. Stuart's a few years older than me, so was Perry, right? But so those are the original guys, and I don't want to say that I think what happened when the sport became a brutal contact, like kill each other kind of sport, is when I started doing well in it. I was a little bit younger than the other guys, and we came to the sport, and you had to beat on each other to win. And I think in the beginning it really wasn't like that. So we started losing some of those guys that are a little bit older, or maybe weren't bigger, or like Jeff Otima, one of my best friends. He was a smaller stature, and by the time he got to the point we had to really knock each other down. I mean, knocking Stu Thompson down is not easy.
Okay,
right? So it's not. Anyway, that's what it was back then.
It became a weight class issue at that point. They should have broken it up like that. Like up to 150 is racing, and Stu Thompson is not easy to knock down. That's what you're telling me. And he's a sheriff, right?
Yeah, I think he's retired now. But we actually, it's funny is that all these guys I race against, none of us like each other during the time, but now we're all friends. Now we can go to old school things, and we can hang out, talk, and whatever. And Stuart and I raced mountain bikes together. I helped him with his mountain bike kind of thing he had going for a while. I was already racing, and so we all became friends, which I think is really cool because that's the friends that we grew up with. Since basically out of high school, we all did this for 5, 7 years of our lives.
Aren't you sponsoring Larry?
I was sponsoring Harry for a while, but he's not on the team anymore.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah. And then I noticed that your badges are on Todd Lyons.
Yeah, so the SC team we do take care of. Yep, they're one of our sponsors. So, and then of course Perry Kramer runs our brakes, and these guys that want some help or whatever.
Upcoming episode.
Yeah, Perry. Yeah, be careful. Yeah, don't ask him about us on the road. It's another story. So.
Okay. Well, now we know what to ask Perry. And then you're in contact with the Turners.
Yeah, so Craig Turner are kind of friends. Gary was, kind of a mentor in the beginning, but it was more Rich Long that kind of mentored me into the business a little bit.
Business partner, Richard Long, and I actually were involved in quite a few of the tracks, running the tracks, managing the tracks, along with our day-to-day routine of building the bicycles as well.
But then Craig and Gary right down the road here, and Craig's building frames now, as you know, and he uses all of our stuff exclusively on his bikes.
Oh, okay. That's where the parts are coming from.
So Craig's a little bit more my age, and we can hang out a little bit.
Man, I'm surprised you're not more involved in what I'm talking about. Like,
well, it's kind of something's coming.
That's right. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Something's coming.
Next year. So we got the BMX thing. Oh, I ask everybody this. What was your first bike?
Oh man, what was this tricycle? No,
well, not your first.
Huh? No, a Huffy Royce Union. I want to think that was one of those. I think it was a Royce Union, right? But I think how I started, and I don't know what bike it was, probably a little tiny 16-inch, but 5 years old, get a bike for Christmas, going down the sidewalk, and I got out of control, and I went off the curb, and I pulled it off. I didn't crash, and that was like the most exciting thing for me to kind of go in the air for half a second there. And
okay.
I didn't crash at 5 years old, and I still was learning how to ride, and that was kind of I was in at that point. And by 7, 8 years old, I'm jumping ramp to ramp and doing all this crazy stuff. Right?
Wikipedia says it was a Schwinn Stingray.
Well, I did have one of those. I think I had to beg for that one because my mom and dad, no, they gave me the cheaper stuff first. But I had to beg for that Schwinn Stingray.
I had a Schwinn Stingray, and it was 300 pounds. But did you have the round frame one?
Oh, yeah, I had one of those.
Yeah, some people don't even know BMX started out on the round frames with the motorcycle knobs and everything and the pinched handlebars.
Heavy wheels and all that stuff. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but they were... Man, you could smash those things through anything.
Well, I think on any Sunday it gives you a depiction of the way we rode our bikes back then, So,
yeah. What was your style? Were you like a big air guy? Were you all about the speed?
No.
Were you knocking the other guys over?
Well, I think I jumped, and I think that a lot of the sprinting I got, or the way I was able to get to the first turn in my day, was about sprinting towards the jump when I was a kid. So when you're a kid, there's a jump, and you got to get going as fast as you can. Well, that took sprinting, right? And I think I learned how to sprint and pedal and spin by wanting to hit the jump. And I would go to places and hit the jump as high and far as I could possibly go. But I think I was able to carry that sprint over to BMX. And then as I really, today they talk it's a man sport. If you want to win AA Pro BMX, you better be a man. Any kid sport for that level. So I think either it was a girl or money that motivated me was another story, which motivated me to do that. And a quick story was, I was racing motocross, I was digging ditches, and I was spending all the money digging ditches on my motorcycle for the weekend. I was totally into it and won some championships later on in my life. But I went to a BMX race with my friend Jeff Botima on one Sunday afternoon at a local park, and he won $300 in 1979. On a Sunday afternoon.
Dude, that's like...
I looked at that. I said, you just won $300. He said, yeah, why? Like, it was normal for him, right?
That's a couple thousand now.
That motorcycle was sold that Monday morning and went straight to the bike shop and bought the best BMX bike I could, which was a Redline at the time. And there was a race coming up at the Forum, and they said, if you win this 16-year-old novice, if you win that, it makes you automatically a pro, right? To 78, right? So I'm like, I'm going to go win that race. And I just focused on going and winning that race, and I did. And
you won your first race.
Well, my first race,
real race. Your first big race
since I was 12. Okay. But this was like I raced motocross, and then I decided to get back in the bikes and to make any money on it. I was money motivated, and I went and won this race. And next thing I know, I'm racing pro. And
was it the yellow red line or the white one?
It was a white one with white spokes. I'll never forget. And all red parts. Had to have all.
Yeah,
that.
And just red logos, right?
Yeah,
SQB26 is a nod to our very first production BMX bike, the Squareback. It features a full chromoly steel fork plus an aluminum alloy frame with double gussets.
Yeah, red logos. Okay. But I remember all red parts and white spokes, painted white spokes on a white frame.
Yeah, they are replicating that
bullseye hubs and all that fun stuff.
Wow, man, I forget.
The best I could get.
Bullseye is still around, but I forget that Bullseye has really been around. Everybody's kind of still around, right?
Yeah, well, I think they're all bringing it back. I think these brands are coming back.
Oh, some of them haven't just
I
hacked
think they
it out?
disappeared. And most of these owners are gone now, right? So I think these younger guys are buying, they're into the sport. But I think the crowd we're talking to today, I think, is here because they all grew up riding bikes at a young age. Right now, they can afford to buy these fun bikes and have these things. And
Well, that's
I think
definitely
this is what we're all following, and this is why the phenomenon is because it's 40 years later, and here we are, right? So,
they're either buying the bike they couldn't afford when they were young, or they're replicating the bike that they had when they were young. That's
right.
the
Or
two.
wanted when they were young.
What's that?
Or wanted when they were
Yeah,
young.
a lot of them, like a lot of the
Yeah,
guys,
couldn't
really didn't have money when they were kids,
Yeah.
and now they have that bike.
I was
And-
one of those kids, I know.
Yeah, I mean, when I was on the Schwinn, the only person I felt like I was better than they were the Huffy and the Murray people, and
Right,
it's like that sounds so dumb now, but when you're a self-conscious kid, I wanted the red line you're talking about,
Right.
or the SE, but
Right.
that was like when a normal bike was 150. I think a PK Ripper was like 350 in the
I don't
early
know
80s.
what this thing cost me, but I know I had to sell my motorcycle to get it.
It was
the
the cost of a motorcycle.
Yeah, it was the cost of, and we went and we customized this whole thing at Ralph's Bicycles, which a lot of you probably remember that name, and we built this bike up from the ground up, and
Okay,
a month
well,
later I went and won on it. So
let's with all the iconic brands that were out there, was there? I mean, you had your name, but was it difficult to start up Intense, or was it difficult to start up Box because you were a new name?
Well, this business is not easy by any means. I mean, if I was working this hard in another business, I'd probably be a lot more successful, is my guess. No, for me, I think it's about the product. I think if you build good product, they'll come, right? Build it, they will come. Build a dream. So that's always been my mentality: is let's build this idea and let's see how it goes. And if I'm 80% right or 90% right, it's better than most people because 60% is good enough. So luckily, we've been 80-90% right on these ideas that I've had, and we've been able to turn those into to good sales and to good brands. And
how'd you pick the name Box, and how'd you pick the logo?
Wow,
Because
man,
everyone
that's great.
says, you need a good name and a good logo, which you have, but how?
Well, it's really simple. So my other company was THE, which was Toby Henderson Enterprise. We said that. We were really successful in the helmet business, and but every time we had a directory or you go to the bike show, it was always at the back, always at the bottom of the list. And I'm thinking, but 3 letters I was always told was the thing your brain remembers. 3 letters, right?
Well, everything was initials back.
Yeah,
everyone
so it
was
3 letters. So I had this idea. I wanted 3 letters if I want to be at the top of the alphabet.
nice.
Put 1,000 names down, and this word Box just kept saying, "This is the one. This is the one." And I don't know. I just picked that. Intense B.M.X. was a royalty agreement I had with the company that I rode mountain bikes for, and then ITS was Intense Tires, and we shortened it to 3 letters and
Okay.
tire systems. And
You're a 3-letter guy, obviously,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, so it was, your brain's supposed to only remember the 3 letters better. So, well, I was able to get the word Box. I went to Trademark Commission and asked for it, and they basically told me no. And this other guy had it
told
in
you
Germany.
no?
Yeah, some guy in Germany had Box 9, and I just happened to know the guy. Called my friend Carl up in Germany. I said, "Carl, do you mind if I start a company called Box?" He said, "I don't care," in a German accent. And so he wrote the commissioner in the U.S. that he didn't care. And next thing you know, I had the name Box. So, which is, that's a hard name to come by these days. These 3-letter words.
Carl? No, everyone in
You can't buy
Germany.
Box.com if you wanted to, right?
No.
No,
What do you have?
Yeah, we have Box Components.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. So it's important that you added components on there, because when I'm Googling you, I'm looking for Box Components.
Yeah.
I don't need a cardboard box.
Right.
So it's that simple, huh? You needed a 3-letter.
3 letters, top of the alphabet. That's all I wanted.
What's your favorite piece that you've designed? Like, is it a handlebar? Is it a frame? Do you have something that you just stare at?
At Box?
Anywhere.
I don't know. I get really, once it's in my brain, and this great team I have here, once they get it and make it happen, and we get to the point where it's halfway through it, my brain's on to the next thing. I really
Okay.
it's not that I lose interest in it, but I've already thought it through, and I've already kind of wanted these things. So it's the newest thing I'm working on is the thing that stares
All
the
right.
most, right? But I think the forks are really iconic, and I think the grips I love because I get to touch those things every day. But my carbon fiber saddles, the cranks I think are some of the sexiest ones I have. They're straight to the point. It's just here's line A, here's line B, go straight there, and that's the kind of stuff I like, right? Clean and simple.
Yeah, no, I do. I like that style. That's why I said when I saw the Intense frame and the box stuff, I'm like, that stuff would go perfect together.
Yeah.
And your cranks are getting more popular on the scene as well right now. Did
Right.
they come along after breaks and stuff? Or
Yeah, they were a little bit later. I mean, basically, when I started Box, we knew we wanted to go after the BMX crowd. We knew that BMX race crowd, and we created 700 SKUs in less than 2 years.
700
Yeah,
SKUs.
so that was a lot. Of course, a lot of sizes and colors within that
Okay.
700. But so cranks were on that list, and now we have 5 levels of cranks. I mean, we call our box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how we label our tiers now, and we have 5 separate ones, and each of those have either 5 or even 7 different sizes. So there's 60 cranks right there that we produce, all in one color at this point. But
So what do they? Wait.
yeah.
Well, so they're all going in the same bracket, but
no. So box 1 has a 35 millimeter spindle, so it takes a custom frame. That's why we work with the frame makers.
Okay.
Then we have box 2, which is a 30 millimeter spindle that will go through a Euro BB. And then we have a 24 millimeter spindle. Then we have a 19, and then down, and then you get down to a square taper crank, which is what we all had in the 70s, right? So it's just technology and
yeah, you said it all fast. I'm almost confused because for me it's like European, American. Those are my bottom.
All that stuff I had to teach myself. I mean,
okay.
Knowing all this stuff and knowing what people buy and how it fits. And one thing we have to focus on too, we have to be able to sell stuff.
Do you have 16s out there? Stuff for 16s? Or are you doing 20-inch?
No, 20-inch and 24 for BMX race.
Okay.
Right? But we cater to a 3-year-old to a 30-year-old or 60-year-old, whatever. So we make every single size crank, 135 all the way to 180 in multiple different styles, shapes, colors.
Okay, so you're accommodating size and age on a 20
when
via
you're 13
okay.
and when you're 18, it takes a different crank, a different handlebar, a different stem. It takes everything's different, right? So,
okay. Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So that's how 700 SKUs come about.
Okay.
Real quick.
Okay, there. I'm like, oh, now we got real answers that I understand. I'm going to ask this one. This is out of your past, but because somebody else was mentioning Dan Gurney, right?
Right.
But you rode for DG.
My very first sponsor was this local bike shop, Schwinn, and I actually got one of the very first Schwinn scrambler frame, it was a Schwinn Stingray with a straight top tube.
I remember those.
I got the very first one, and it was a piece of crap. It rode horribly. It was worse than the Stingray, right?
Like the welding was bad, or
no,
things
the
didn't
geometry
fit in
was
it?
bad, and this is where I'm a stickler about geometry.
Okay,
and shape,
all right.
From a rider standpoint, it did not ride well at all. And so giving that feedback to Schwinn back at the time, no one really cared. I'm 12 years old, no one cares, right?
Yeah, like whatever, kid.
Yeah, whatever. So, but my first sponsor was, then I had a little later on, Jeff Wotima's uncle sponsored me and kind of wrote for him on a Gary Littlejohn. It was Dan Gurney, Gary Littlejohn. I had one of those. But my first sponsor was DG. Yes, so my very first factory sponsor was DG.
Okay, and you were sponsored by BMX Action, right?
That was at the very end. So, when you don't have money coming in, you start to find ways to get yourself in the magazine.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless of that, it was interesting because I didn't recall when I was young, like, that the magazine was sponsoring people. Was that a rare situation?
Well, we weren't given any money. What it was we were kind of paid upon how much exposure you got.
Sure.
So I could get contracts from the Shimanos of the world based upon how much exposure I was getting, right? So when our BMX Action needed a test rider, I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they gave you a platform, you're getting seen, and then you can then they leave it up to you to go make the money for getting seen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been a comic for many years, and that's how it is with a lot of productions. It's
Right.
like, they're like, well, we're not going to pay you, but you can take advantage of this situation.
Right.
You're like, thanks a lot.
Uh-oh.
Wow. Lights out.
It's like the party's over. I think we have to walk around.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, hold on.
Sure.
I got it. Hang on one sec. So we're on lights here. See that?
Yeah. That works out. The lights.
He's in the other room. We'll get him to walk around. All right,
Yeah, we'll get your son to just here. You're like, hey, you can stop packaging things right now.
Gotta save money. Gotta have the lights go off.
That is one interesting thing that people don't think about. When you picture all the parts, you think a bunch of machines are making them and they're getting packaged by machines. His son is in the other room packaging parts right now.
Mistakes from Taiwan. Yeah. Putting master links in chain boxes.
Yeah, master links are annoying, man. I've had to put a few.
Yeah.
I've had to redo a whole line of bikes myself here and there.
And it's business always changing. You think something and you figure it all out and you get it to market and you're wrong. You're late. You're not early enough. These kind of things.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's almost in the sense of computer programs and stuff. You have a computer, then you get the new thing, and then everything doesn't match up. You find that issue with bicycles?
Yeah, I mean, so this is why we try to create standards and things. This is like 10 mil. When I made the 20 millimeter axle, no one would do it, so I had to make the forks and the hub. And a lot of things I do here, we have to make 2 parts, and to sell 2 of something, it's extremely difficult in our industry. So if you make a special handlebar, which we know is better than all the other handlebars, but it needs a stem. So now you have to buy both. So it's not a $100 purchase, it's a $200 purchase. So that's always been the struggle, is creating parts that fit everybody's bike, right? But also be innovative, right? So it's the standards and all the stuff. So when you get into mountain biking, it's tenfold versus BMX, right? You have you have gears, you have brakes, you have all this stuff that kind of
Yeah.
going on. Yeah, it's crazy. Out there.
Deraillers, and then like
That
you're
whole
making.
building's about derailleurs right now.
Yeah.
So
Then you build a
yeah.
new derailleur with the brackets for the cord, and then they're sticking them in the frame right after that, right? That's the
exactly.
kind of problems that you're dealing with.
Yeah. And frame makers really never like component makers, and component makers never like frame makers. They don't get along. So we try to find partners like Mabo and these guys to
Okay, tell us about Mabo.
Well, Mabo's a Dutch company, and they're all about winning races and going fast too. And they've actually had the last Olympics they got, our last World Championships they've had. They have probably the best riders in the world, if not some USA guys. But they have run all of our stuff. They take the bottom brackets and the hubs that we create, and they run that stuff because they want to win races, and they're serious about the winning races over there.
Okay, well, how do you is it obviously it's going to be interesting? Like, how do you watching the progression? Like, you were racing on dirt tracks, winning the 300, then it became the X Games. Now it's in the Olympics. Like, does that blow your mind?
Yeah, it does, and I don't know if the listeners know it, but the BMX actually had one of the best views of the Olympics last time, 16, and it was shown at 4 o'clock in the morning. So it wasn't for the Olympic Committee to finally start to realize how the action sports really made a difference in the Olympics, and BMX is a catalyst towards that. How it made it there, no one really knows how it got in there, but the tracks and the things they're putting together and the excitement from that event has really turned the sport into something that we never thought would be, for sure.
Well, I mean, I remember when I was riding my bike, and you watch the Olympics, and then they have like men's gymnastics, and you're like, who's going to want to wear tights, But now the bikes are flying higher and doing just as many flips and spins as any gymnast has ever does, and then they're landing on a ramp after having 20 feet of air. Like, they should have just, it's the shorts. That's what makes it happen. It's the better clothes. It's the cooler style.
Right.
So you've got the necks out, and man, I mean, like I said, everyone just loves your stuff. Like,
Well, I appreciate that.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know how long we've been talking. I feel like I ran out of my most important questions. I hate to be a
I know
bad
you were going to
journalist.
talk about my history, and you were talking about my product. I don't know. You had some questions.
Yeah, we did a lot of jumping around, right? So you BMX race, but then you became the designer. Are your children riders, or you have your own your
My son's
sponsor?
really good at it, but his dad's Toby Henderson, and he's got
Yeah, dude.
whatever.
Yeah, you don't want to be Muhammad Ali's kid and stuff,
so
right?
He's like, no, he's really good at it. It's just not his thing, right? So at least at this point. So.
And what are your other interests besides bike riding?
It's funny lately. Electric cars,
Okay.
electric cars. No, I don't have a lot. I mean, I love working. I love my job. I love what I do here. I spend a lot of time, with the computer and with my staff, teaching them about. I mean, I like the sales part of it too. I like the design part of it. I like to see our logos in Germany and Australia, and I like to kind of.
So
see
it's
that stuff.
worldwide.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we sell to 35 countries, if not more, at this point. And
Are you like in the sense of a rock band? Do you have some strange country we've never heard of, where you guys are just huge, or is there anything?
I don't know. I've heard them all at this point. I've been to probably 50 countries in my life.
Really?
My BMX career and all this travel. A lot of Asia, a lot of European stuff I've done.
Yeah,
so.
tell us where BMX is popular. Is it or more popular than America? A lot of us don't know.
So it's America, the French, the Dutch, the Aussies, New Zealand, and it starts to kind of taper. English starts to kind of taper off on that. The Latvians like it and all that, but the French, I think, are the second biggest market.
Really?
Then the Australians and the Dutch, then the English versus U.S.
I knew
US is
Australia.
for sure,
I lived there for a little while, and there were BMX bikes everywhere.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I went there. I was the very first BMXer to travel abroad with Botima. We went to Australia and England in 1980, and we're the first ones to ever really, for a BMX race guy, to leave the country and go do these things, right? So,
were you racing or doing exhibitions?
no, well, it was funny. There was tracks in Australia. There was tracks in England and France. There really wasn't at the time. So it was more expeditions we were doing for our sponsor Raleigh. But when we went to Australia, there was some racing on the weekends, but they actually had us doing stunts at the end of this checkout counter, right? And I'll never forget, Jeff and I packed our bags up one night. We were getting out of there. We had found out that our pictures were on the scooter pie, which is what they call wagon wheel.
Oh, man.
And they had this schedule for a month that we were going to be at all these events for a month straight, every hour upon the hour, 10-hour days. And him, I go, we're out of here. So we packed our bags and we're sneaking out of the hotel.
How old were you for this?
We were 18.
Okay.
And we're leaving, man. We're catching the first taxi to the airport, right? And our sponsor heard us coming down the hallway, and he came out, and we had our bags, and we're leaving. What can we do? I said, stop. So he stopped us. The next morning, they took us out in the harbor, gave us a bunch of money, and then the whole thing kind of like became a little bit more realistic. But
were you out on a boat when they gave you the money?
Well, they gave us money to stick around. And,
they're like, take this bag, mate.
But no, I think it was one of the best experiences I had. We go to these malls and just get mobbed by the kids, and it was quite an experience.
I mean, they have so much outdoor space down there. I was just picturing that there must have been a bunch of tracks in
there
your
was.
wake.
We went to
that.
one track, and you remember the movie Rad, the Hell track or whatever. We went to this one track. It was very similar to that. I mean, big wooden banks and just kind of like they built it in this dump, and there was some different stuff kind of going on over there.
Yeah, and they had that Nicole Kidman BMX movie too, right?
Yeah, there was that one. Yeah, BMX Bandits. Yeah.
Yeah, BMX Bandits. Oh man, that wasn't filmed in Australia, was it?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
She's very proud of that movie.
She should be. That's her best flick ever. So you did the world tour. France is the #1 market after this, which is actually a shock to me. I would have never guessed that. I would have
a lot of tracks in France. A lot of really nice tracks there.
And then Asia.
No, so Malaysia is one of the places we sell stuff to. Indonesia, Thailand, they all have tracks. They're just not that big, Yeah, the Japanese have tracks, but these are 500 to 3,000 kids, We're in the U.S. We have 50 to 60,000 kids that race regularly.
No way. There's that many kids racing?
The French have about 25,000. The Aussies have about 20,000. Yeah. So you start adding all that up, you got about 150,000 kids in the world that race regularly, that hold a license and race.
I had no idea that the numbers were that high.
Yeah. And if you look at it, it's actually higher than UCI has for their athletes. It's higher than USA Cycling has for their athletes. So it's quite a big sport.
Well,
actually.
BMX is fun, and you can just get on your bike right from the start.
Yeah.
I mean, don't we all just throw kids on bikes in this country?
A lot of them keep racing till they're 80. So there you go.
Till they're what?
80.
Yeah. Why? How old are you?
Some guys on the track, they're 80, right? They're out there.
Are they on 20s still?
I don't know. I can't ride a 20.
Did you ever do freestyle or anything, or was that?
No, I was a race guy. I was kind of anti that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wasn't anti it, but we were doing stunts. I have the jump called the Henderson, where you let go of one hand and one foot. So that was because we were having fun with it, and that's what got us in the magazines. But when it came down to racing, that's what we did. But you couldn't race all the time. After you raced or before you raced, you still went out and rode in the parking lot, and you still did stuff. And you went down the park, you tried to jump over the sand hill or whatever. We did all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, of course.
But freestyle itself was never my thing.
Okay, so that was just So when the transition came along, you're like, freestyle sucks.
I'm a racer. Yeah.
And how do you feel about it now? You don't hate it still?
No, I appreciate it because I know I went to the skate park. I tried to do all, and I did it actually pretty good. But I appreciate what those guys. When Eddie started flying out of the bowl and Mike Dominguez and all that stuff started happening, right? That was stuff I couldn't do. So I kind of appreciate what they could do and sort of give them props for that. Yeah.
Who do you enjoy watching, or who like what riders, whether it's racing or freestyle, whatever? Like who? You don't have to be a fan of them, but who do you enjoy watching them work on their bike, or who did you look at and be like, man, I got to be doing that?
Dave Mira, I think he was Simon. I mean, some of these guys were really good, but it's funny is David Clinton was my hero. I got into it because I was at a track and David Clinton comes flying by and flies over my head on his Kawasaki BMX bike when I was 12, and I was hooked at that point.
He had a Kawasaki BMX bike?
Yeah. If you go back to history, Kawasaki was one of the first guys suspension bike, and David Clinton could ride a bike, right? He was a little older than me and really wanted me to do it. But I think if I were to say who's the best bike guy, who's the most, if you were to look at the world and say who was that, I want to say Stu Thompson.
Okay.
That was something that I had to go beat up on Stu, and he wasn't easy to do, and I beat him a few times, and that was great. But he's probably the best BMXer of all time. Racer would be Stu Thompson.
He was the champion of his moment.
He was, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So he was what you were after? He's the guy the rest of you were chasing?
His attitude, his persona, all that about him was first class. There's a lot of guys that were fast that just didn't have the same couth as Stewart. So
yeah, he did have a demeanor, right? Yeah. Because it's like skateboard world. Like one guy's calm and the rest of the guys are a bunch of animals and stuff. So Stu was not an animal.
Right.
Oh, wow. And, what about the guys that you sponsored? Like, right?
So right now we have Ronnie Kim ride for us. I don't have any pros, and the pros, there's a few good pros out there, and I can't get my hands on. We can't afford them. They're sponsored by other companies that are bigger than us or have bikes or whatever the problem is. But we sponsor a lot of athletes with parts. But for the factory team, we have a 14-year-old Ronnie Kim. I think he's 15 now. We have Ronnie Kim, Gemma Tolson. She's 8 years old. These two riders win every single race that they're involved in. Nate Kitchen, which is a BMXer / mountain bike, 14, 15-year-old now, kid that we sponsor. I know I'm missing somebody. Braden Higgins, a little 6, 7-year-old, 8-year-old now. They grew up fast. They're right for us. And then we have Alec Bob, who's our pro. So Alec he works in the business. We're teaching him, mentoring him as he's at the end of his career. He's just out of college. So we're mentoring him to become part of the business as far as also being an athlete, being on the track and working with the vendors and working with the athletes and stuff like that. So we do run people around.
Does he get his own bike?
He has a few. If he we don't make the frame.
Okay,
but Alex starts. He's only been here 5 months, so I'm working him hard.
Okay,
right now. I'm working him hard. So.
And I mean, I know I already asked about 29s. Are frames in the?
No, because we have an agreement with all the frame makers. We're only making the parts.
Oh,
yeah.
That makes so much sense.
We sell to DK. We sell to SE. We sell to GP.
Right.
We sell to all these guys, right?
Yeah.
So these are all our customers.
It's better to throw your stuff on everybody than all of a sudden be like, we're doing one too, and have them be like,
we make a bike. I mean, I don't. Yeah, we make. It's just not what I decided to do with this company. Yeah.
Yeah, you already did that once, right?
I did that once. Yeah. Bike of the year 5 times. Come on.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, get out on top, right?
Yeah,
you're like, I'm the Stu Thompson of bike frames. Wait, I had a question posed right there, and it just shot out of my head.
Stu Thompson bike frames.
No.
29ers. You're asking about 29ers.
I was asking about 29ers. I mean, that's the world we're in. Would we ever be able to get you to come ride out on one of our big group rides?
4130. I've done it a few times.
You have been on those?
Yeah, I've been on them. Yeah, the very first one I went was crazy. We were in Hollywood, went down to the Strip and all that stuff. What year? Oh man, it was funny. I rode
was
a slalom
Cheech leading
bike.
or the mayor?
No, I remember I went on a couple of them. I can't remember the first one. It was 5 years ago, probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the first time I ever did one, it reminded me of what we're discussing. Like all of a sudden, it was like being 13 and showing up at the local vacant lot where the track was, and there was 100. Well, there's 400 other people at the local track. Like, did that blow your mind? Or?
Yeah, when I got there, I couldn't believe how many people were there. And I was even more blown away when we pulled out onto the Strip and we started heading down Sunset, Hollywood Boulevard, whichever street we were on. And we just took over. And then the way the teams worked together to stop everybody at the stoplights.
Safety
and everybody
team,
ride free. And I was like, oh, my God, it's crazy. And sure enough, this one girl that rides on, I forget her name now, she crashes right out of the gate. Hits her head. So we're picking up bodies along the way, and it was
part of the process. Really,
yeah. It was so funny. I wasn't sure what I was getting into, so I had somebody drive one of my sprinter vans behind the track because I was like, if I don't like this, I'm getting out of this thing.
Right.
I enjoyed it, did the whole thing, and even went back for more.
So, and what were you riding?
A bike with gears because I'm too old to sit now. I know you guys wouldn't like that.
You were on a mountain bike?
No, I was on one of my slalom bikes. I just grabbed a bike from here. I just grabbed a bike and we went, right?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the guys you were racing against show up at these things.
Yeah, Perry was there that night. Todd Lyons was there that night. I raced against Todd, my mountain bike career, actually. Him and I were slalom.
He was a mountain bike guy, too?
Yeah, so Todd was a great slalom racer.
Really?
So,
I did not know that about him.
I had a tough time beating him in slalom for sure. And downhill, I don't know. I don't think he ever really chased that. Downhill was more my specialty, but Todd was good at that. Yeah.
Oh, really? So he's in your age category?
No, he's younger. So when I was racing mountain bikes, people thought it was a typo when they would see the ages. So
okay,
so that's a whole other story. I was 10 years older than the entire field.
They're like, whose dad is racing?
They called me Grandpa.
Oh, did they really?
That was my name. Yeah. So.
And now he's one of the companies that you're putting parts on his bikes. You said,
so
right?
SC Racing on the race bikes. Yeah. So they run our stuff. Yeah.
Oh, they're track bikes and
race
stuff.
Bikes, yeah.
Oh, so will there ever be a crossover there?
Yeah, I'm working on that. I mean, we've been asked. We have a kind of unique rims, and I've been asked to roll those in 29 and stuff. So it's funny. I keep thinking this is going to end next year, like fixies. I think this is a fad, but it keeps going and going and
I
going.
don't think it is.
Man, it's here. I think it's here to stay at this point. Yeah.
I mean, every time I see everyone just puts kids on a BMX bike. Like that's every kid's first bike, mostly,
right.
And then you see the parent riding along on some chumpy city bike or something. Right. I just want to be like, why don't you just go get the same bike as your kid? You know, get that giant BMX bike. It's out there now.
I've done the research. Like I said, things are coming. So I've done some research, and we're finding that a lot of guys buy a 29er. And then they'll buy their kid a 24 or even a 20 to kind of mimic dad. So there's kind of this crossover, starting to see a little bit of growth in the smaller bikes with the kids because dad wants the kid to have one or maybe his wife to have one and ride too. And some of these rides I've been on, I went on the one for Scott Breithaupt. We had the big ride for Scott.
Sure.
I was on that because I know his kids real well. And there was a lot of women on that ride. So, you know.
There has been more women on the rides lately. They're still mostly wives and girlfriends, though.
Right, you sure.
Like, don't ever hit on a girl at a ride because she is not alone. But what I've also noticed is a lot of the guys got their first 29er or their 24, 26 a certain amount of years ago. Then they get their second or their 29 or they go up. Then the wife gets the old bike.
Right.
My sister-in-law has my brother's older bike, you know. Right. And then the kids have the quad angle and, you know. But, yeah, what you're saying, it becomes a process. All of a sudden the whole family is riding BMX bikes or electric mountain bikes.
Yeah, well, there's that whole phenomenon going about that, too, right now.
I know. There really is. I got to admit that. Yeah, and then I haven't ridden them, but I've just seen the ones that you have to sign a special piece of paper before you take it on the street because it does the 38 miles an hour. 28 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were, I mean, I'm sure that no one's following through on the piece of paper.
They're fast, yeah. They're fast.
Do you ride something like that ever?
No, my bikes are limited at 19 or 20, but they turn off at 19. But mine are high-end mountain bikes. So my idea of one is to get up the mountain without a lot of effort, you know, because of my weight, but to bomb the downhill.
Oh, good, because that was my question.
So I get to go back to my roots of downhilling and get to ride fast down the hill without a chairlift or without someone driving me to the top.
Okay.
The motor takes me up and I bomb down the hill. So.
Do you ever just ride around the neighborhood on it too?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I test all the stuff here too. So.
Oh, really?
Build something. I do all the testing.
Okay. Well,
we have a lot of testers. But,
wait, I got to interrupt.
I test too.
When Toby Henderson tests a bike, though, does that mean you're riding it up and down this parking lot I came in, or does that mean you're taking it to the top of the hill and bombing a hill?
Top of the hill, bombing.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Yeah, because if you're buying a bike from you don't want it to be like, yeah, no, it works and all the gears shift. Like
I break more stuff here than anybody for sure.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. So my job is to go out and break the stuff, and I jump. I still can jump pretty big jumps on my bike. And
is the staff mostly riders? Or are they?
Yeah, it's half and half. Our engineers are half and half, and
they're not ex-stunt riders like you, though.
My admin people aren't riders, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, no. There's a few people here that ride. Some have it.
Do they go home to their husbands and wives and like, Toby broke the prototype again?
Yeah, that does happen.
Does it really?
But we do have a lot of other riders who ride the miles. I don't put serious miles on bikes.
Okay.
But when it comes to endurance stuff, we have a lot. We have about 10 riders that ride like hundreds of miles a week to test the stuff. These are all the mountain bikes.
Does it all come back when you're testing one though? You're like, like what you were telling me at the beginning of this interview about weight distribution and geometry and feeling it. Does that all wash back over you when you're testing a bike?
Yeah, and I think this is where what I bring to the company is that aspect of it, the fact that it feels right. So it's very hard to tell our engineers that it doesn't feel right. They need data. So this has always been a big battle here of me wanting it to feel right, but the engineers being able to build it correctly from a feeling standpoint versus a data standpoint.
Yeah.
So all these other riders bring their 2 cents into it, and then we try to develop things around that everyone seems to like. But at the end of the day, I got to kind of touch it with my hand and say, I approve. This feels right to me, and it's literally half the time it's 1 millimeter off that it needs to be, right? So. And it's ever changing because as soon as you build a 45 millimeter stem, the trend goes to 35, or the handlebars go from 800 to 820. These are the things that happen as
how often does that happen?
Oh, as soon as you come out with a part, you've got to be making the next one. Yeah.
Okay, so have you ever put have you guys ever produced a whole line of something and then the day after you're like, oh?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff we got to blow out here, right? So that's that 80-20 thing, No, it's I had a boss tell me if you're 60% right, you're doing well, and I think we get it about 80% right here. So
okay,
yeah. So we had 20% we screw up on, and we got to get rid of it and just move on, right?
What's what product was like 100%?
Oh man,
like
brakes, obviously, right?
Yeah, I would say the brakes and the pads.
No, the forks, our carbon fiber forks have done really well, and we're thinking about a 29er for that.
Oh, really?
I don't know. And these guys could probably tell me. Well, they're right here.
Yeah, I call that a diamond shape. Right?
It is. It's got a flat one side, so it's kind of a triangle.
Okay, right? For someone like me, is there ever a chance you're going to make it possible to put the front, like a front brake on something like that?
No,
like your front brake, not like a old school.
No, you wouldn't want that on. Not on a race bike, you wouldn't want that.
Okay.
29er maybe, but you wouldn't. I guess you can put posts on it.
Yeah, not everybody loves front brakes.
If you're going to put that on a 29er, you might as well put a disc brake on it, right? So. Yeah, see, this is where it all goes. This is my struggle with the 29 group is because we try to advance, and they want the old school look.
Well,
so we know a disc brake is better.
I know a disc brake. There's tons of disc brakes out there now, for one.
Okay, so it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening. All the monster bikes, all the fat tire ones are disc brakes.
Right.
Some of the geared bikes have disc brakes. and monocogs, but that's mostly mountain bike. But and I've had a monocog at one point. The disc brakes are better. You're 100% right. But I like the feeling of the other brake, and I'm used to it after all these years. So I have better bike control with pads.
Well, you know what, and maybe you had the same kind of feeling thing I had. So, short story, I was riding for Shimano. Hydraulic brakes were coming around. They built a drum brake, actually a drum brake in the hub.
Drum brake? How heavy was that, though?
It was a wild product. Never sold it. I was prototype testing them, and I opted for the drum brake because it had a cable, and I could feel the wheel still.
Thank you.
I'm used to the cable.
Yeah.
And then I rode the hydraulic bike. I couldn't feel my wheel anymore. I didn't like them, but I was wrong. They wound up going hydraulic, and everything's hydraulic. But I understand that's a feeling you get. I wanted to feel that rim move through the cable, through my finger. You want that control, right?
Well, also,
So, I understand that.
A disc brake works too well in the sense you hit it and the bike stops.
Right.
Where a traditional brake, you can do it's like
Right.
better for jumping off the curb and fishtailing. The bike doesn't just stop. I mean, you can make the bike stop, but you can also slow the bike down.
Wow.
The disc, I'm like trying to slow it down, and it's like.
Well, I wrote an article for Mountain Bike Action. I used to write for them, and I used to do tests for them. But the story was, how do you go? What's the most important part of your bike to go fast? What's the most important part to go fast? What's the most important part of your bike?
Me?
Well, people say that. People say suspension.
Hubs?
People say a lot.
I think hubs.
All that. No,
Okay,
it's
what's
your brakes?
Oh.
Your brakes are the most important thing you need to go fast. Why? The later you brake, the faster you are.
That's true.
So when you're running a 5-minute downhill, every time you brake later than the other guy is just adding time to your number, right? So
Well, also, I mean, I would go with you if we're talking going downhill, especially on a mountain bike in a mountain bike setting.
right.
Then disc brakes are going to be way better. I don't, right?
That was a mountain bike magazine, right? So,
You must have done it with pads back in the day, though, right?
But pads meaning? Oh
Brake
yeah,
yeah.
I started with V brakes. Sure, we didn't have hydraulic brakes in the beginning.
So
sure.
if you're bombing a hill, what kind of brakes do you want?
Well, nowadays it's hydraulic brakes for sure.
Even you?
Yeah.
Oh, even though you didn't like it,
Yeah,
you got
no, I
used to
got it
them.
figured out now. That was back
Okay.
then, that was a long time ago. 20 years ago. when
Yeah,
it
you
all
didn't. You didn't like
happened,
freestyle either.
I
You-
also started when there was no suspension, and I like 8 inches now. So there you go.
Yeah,
Not 8
no.
inches, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. How do you? This is a PG. Now, I'm used to just hardtail everything. I ride BMX bikes, but when I've worked in different bike shops, I have ridden the bikes with lots of shocks and stuff, and I could see where it would be fun, but it was just like, it was so soft that I'm like, I just couldn't tell what was going on. Nothing felt like anything. So
Right.
what have you evolved to? I mean, your electric bikes must be loaded up with shocks and
Yeah.
stuff?
So the bike I'm riding right now is 180 millimeters of travel.
Wait, let me interrupt. Do you get air with an electric bike?
Oh, I jumped the crap out of this thing.
Get
That's why
the
I
hell
did brake
outta here.
stuff. Oh yeah.
Dude,
There's
okay.
Some big doubles behind my house we hit. Oh,
All right, I
yeah.
apologize
Go-
for interrupting,
go
but I
for
had
it.
to ask.
I'd take it to the BMX track and jump everything on it.
Get
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
here,
yeah,
dude.
yeah,
You get
yeah.
that whole big thing, including the.
Yeah, it's not easy because they don't burp like a motorcycle. When you go off a jump on an e-bike, you got to carry all 50 pounds with you.
Really?
Yeah, it's but I can jump. We go to Sky Park, which is Santa's Village out here, and they have one track, or one they call the jump line. It's got 25 jumps on the way down, and some of these are 35-foot doubles. Only Sky Pass that land on flat.
Wait, meaning you're going 35 feet to the next.
to the next lip.
Really?
Yeah,
On the e-bike.
on an e-bike and actually fly past the landing.
You should just
No,
do
it's
commercials
not-
for
no,
e-bikes, right? Like,
it's
because like e-bikes are also good for. Oh, we got to move around, right?
yeah, you gotta walk around. Hey,
This isn't the worst thing that's ever happened during the race BMX show. We've had dog situations.
Podcast is going long, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what, you want me out of here? They're like, Toby, just get rid of this guy. I mean, also one thing that I'm a proponent of e-bikes in the sense of people that are too old to ride regular bikes but don't want to give up the bike lifestyle. Just people that are even riding on the Strand Cruiser. You can be much older and still ride a bike now.
Right.
But to have you jump in 35 feet across on an e-bike, that's a commercial right there.
There's some really fun stuff. There's a one wooden ramp when you first take off. It's probably 35 feet point to point, and we just launched that thing.
What does your family feel about Dad flying around through the air, like putting it all on the line? Like, are they like, maybe you should stop?
No, because my 15-year-old son, he's awesome too. He does the same thing with me. He goes with me. He rides an e-bike. He does all the jumps with me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of thing. Now my wife's over on the beginner course. She's fine with that.
Is she riding an e-bike too?
Yeah, she's on an e-bike too.
Okay.
And she we've only been married 5 years now. We've been together 5 years, and I met her racing BMX. She was a scorekeeper when she was 16,
really?
and I was 18, and we had separate lives. Now we found each other again, and
Interesting.
interesting story. But anyway, so she's not a bike rider. So she started doing some tandem stuff with me.
Does she score you and the kid?
No.
kidding.
No. So anyway, so she started riding tandems with me. She didn't really like riding by herself, but once she got an e-bike, she rides all the time with me. So it's kind of brought us together as far as I was riding on by myself all the time, but now she'll go with me because she got an e-bike.
Okay.
Right? We're in our 50s, so it's much better to ride.
So she had you pulling her along on a tandem
Yeah,
for a little while?
She's small. She's 110 pounds, so she smokes me up the hill, right?
Oh, really?
Because e-bikes actually, the motors are the same. If she's way less than me, who's going to go uphill faster? She's gone.
I mean, I'm pretty light. I go up hills pretty good. Yeah.
I know. I'm not a climber.
No,
I'm
really.
a downhill guy.
Okay, yeah. I'm not good. I'm a brake dragger. Sometimes when we're doing, even on, asphalt, we're just bombing monster hills in the big group, and everyone's like, I'm like secretly hitting the brakes a little bit. But, yeah, I love racing up the hill. What kind of tandem bike did you have?
We got a tandem a couple years ago, a new one. It's a Cannondale. I took all the drop bars off, put flat bars on it, and made it all custom.
Your friend Craig Turner he made a couple tandems.
I'm the one who told him to make them, actually.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, I said, you got to make some tandems, man. So
yeah, you're like, because I have an electric battery that'll make that thing go smoothly.
I don't have an electric tandem yet. That's next on the list. Yeah.
Now, do you do anything? I mean, this would just be more for fun, not for racing. You guys wouldn't put gears in a BMX bike or anything like that. How do you feel about that, by the way?
You don't need that. It's been tried before. And when the BMXers guys are the strongest guys, in my opinion, in bicycling, by far. That initial snap, that initial push. And if you have anything that's stopping that chain from touching those two cogs, you're going to cause a problem. And when I raced dual slalom, all the BMX guys were good, and we had the hardest time keeping our chains on because we had to shift during the slalom race, right? So if you try to shift in the middle of a slalom race and you had power down,
right,
you could derail the chain. So we've learned to really ease up as you shifted. So it was like an art to unweighting the bike as you shifted, right?
When you're derailing a chain under those circumstances, is it just coming off, or is it maybe flying into the spokes, maybe snapping?
It's basically slipping, so your legs go faster than you can go on your head, right?
Okay.
So it's derailing the whole thing. Yeah.
When you reminisce, do you mix the mountain biking and the BMXing in your head? Is one more of a memory than another?
That's a good question. I mean, because I made a lot of money riding both of them. A lot of good. I've been all over the country, all over the world in both of them. I think when I dream, man, that's a good question. I think I dream about both.
Okay.
Think about it. Yeah, think about it. I still dream about winning races. I still dream I wake up. Dude, you're a 50-year-old guy. You just got a contract. You just got some money. You just got that first place. You won yourself some money.
Hey.
You wake up. Crap. Not real, right? So
that could be a new class soon, though. The way things are going, the 50 and above.
Yeah.
That's what we pretend when we're drag racing during the rides. Sometimes we have drag races. We're because I'm 49. So I'm like, if I get beat, I'm like, hey, good job. Yeah, I'm 49, Right. But sometimes we're all old and we're hauling ass down there. Yeah. Have you noticed too? Not in every category, but in some areas, I got stronger as a rider when I got older than from when I was just goofing around riding.
My best year on a mountain bike when I was 36.
Really?
And I won the Downhill Mania Championship. I was fit as can be, and all the skill was there.
Was it a fit moment in your life, or did all that riding build up to like a peak year of strength?
I think it was a little bit of everything. It was desire to not go get a real job. It was knowing I was getting older.
That's a great motivator.
Yeah, it was. That's a whole other story. But no, I think that my skill level, my maturity, all these things kind of lined themselves up one year. And there was a sport called Downhill Mania where 4 guys went side by side for 5-minute runs in a qualification thing. So you get rid of riders and you take yourself all the way down to the final 4. Start with 32 men, maybe 64, and you get yourself down to the final 4. And so it was BMX, but on a mountain bike, and I just excelled at that.
So it was basically bombing a mountain.
Bombing a mountain, but side by side. So you would touch each other, bounce off each other, cut each other off.
Oh, dude.
40, 50 miles an hour.
Oh, my God. So you were there
that was my thing for sure.
Oh, one of you could have taken all four of you out, though, right?
Oh, yeah, it happened all the time. I mean,
Oh, okay. So you went back to your days of when you guys were beating up on the
you
smaller
learn,
guys.
You know, and it was funny was because I was a lot older than most of the guys. So I don't think as fit as the other guys. I think I just outthought them in the race. So I would never really be in the front, but I could say, okay, we got 4 turns to go. I can do it here, and I'd make these moves, and I'd pull it off. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's a very common boxing mentality. That's how the older boxers beat the younger boxers. Because like, he's younger and stronger, and like, I just outthink him. You know,
just outride him. Yeah.
So that's what you did at 36.
At 36, I won that championship. Yeah.
Man,
that was probably one of my favorite things to do. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. See, yeah, that would not be my comfort zone. Just bomb. Now, do you do flips in the air when you were doing it back then?
No. I was never.
The guys do that during races when they're bombing?
No, not this kind of thing. It was all about speed. And,
oh,
I'm a racer, remember? So.
Yeah, no, but I just got to keep double checking because I'm just picturing all the different videos I've seen. Like, at some point when you're doing mountain bombs, like there's a lip, and then all of a sudden there's 30 feet of air underneath you to get to the next spot. You must have still been doing some flying from spot to spot.
But no, I mean, it was about getting point A to point B at that point.
I ask all the guys this, and this would include even now on your e-bike doing the 35-foot air and stuff. Do you have a different equilibrium than a common person in your own opinion? Or is it a confidence? Or is it a lack of fear? Or is it like stupidity? I don't know.
No, I think it's just experience. I think if you rode them as much as I did, and my common thing to tell people, I've probably fallen off a bike more than you've ridden one.
Okay.
So, and I can fall off a bike pretty darn good. So, I think that it's just we learned it and we know it. So when I take off on that lip, I know what that bike's going to do. I know where I need to be. I know where it should be pointed. Do I make mistakes? Sure. But I know where I need to go, and it doesn't bother me a bit to do it.
Okay. So you got to 35 feet 1 foot at a time. It wasn't like you just stared at that thing and then.
No. Well, nowadays you just hit it, right? So you kind of know, right? You kind of know your bike. You just hit the thing.
Right.
But, a mountain bike, you got to know about your suspension. You got to know rebound dampening. I learned all that in my mountain bike career. You got to know these things. Where a BMX bike, it's not the same thing.
Have you ever done a monster jump on a mountain bike and it was stiffer than you thought, and then you bounced on the other?
I've done where the rebounds weren't right, And,
oh, really?
Yeah, and I've spent. Well, that was during the whole career. I said when I went through the whole part of the research development was all suspension, really. Learning to work with your front suspension and get the small bumps and get the big bumps into it. And every track was different, and I learned about stack washers and all that stuff. And I actually, my last year, I rode for RST. I had a full-time fork guy. His only job was my forks. It was his only job, yeah. And we were up at Laguna doing the Rads run or whatever. And I told him, hey, I want you to move the stack washer over half of a turn. He thought there's no way I would know that. So he took the fork apart, but he didn't move the stack washer because he wanted to think that I didn't know.
Oh.
So I went back and went down and said, dude, you didn't move it. And from that point on, he always just kind of respected that and knew that if I told him which way to go, he'd do it.
You're like, you only have one job.
and I had another mechanic that I would go up the hill and he'd come down. He already knew my tire pressure. He knew what I would say.
Right.
He would say, I go up the hill, and he'd say, Toby's going to come down and want 1 pound in the front and 1 out of the back. And that's how close it is, right? And I go, hey, Tim, just take 1 out of the back, put 1 in the front, And that's how it was. And then we go over to the suspension guy and we turn those stack washers and we would do these.
You're a very precise person, right?
I don't know. There's nothing.
Anyone watching knows now because you're like, we're talking about 1 pound of air, we're talking about a half a twist. You're talking about geometry on the parts.
Oh, geometry is everything.
Yeah, the machine that gets within 0.000.1.
Yeah, we got one of those.
Yeah, that seems to be where you're at. That's why you sound like a scientist compared to other bike guys.
I'm not an engineer by any means, that's for sure.
Oh, man, well, you didn't have to be. You were jumping bikes and riding bikes instead.
Engineer in the air, maybe.
Yeah. I'm an air engineer. Yeah, you can be whatever you want to be. So those, I don't know. Do you have anything you'd like to share with the public?
No, I just thanks for coming. I think.
Thanks for having me.
The lights are going to tell us to get out of here anyway.
Yeah, this is our third light off.
So anyway, no, thanks for coming. I look for something in the future because we are interested in what's going on here. We do have some stuff in the fire that we're working on for the 29er crowd. That sport's here to stay. It looks like, and I was a little leery of it in the beginning, but. I know you guys are fun to be with and have a great time at the rides, and we want to be a part of that. And I'm glad to see that we are at some point, at some level, and we just didn't really know it. So we'll pay a little more attention moving forward.
That was a surprise to me when I came in because I was like, the cruiser brakes. You guys are like, And I'm like, no, they're everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we sell a lot of brakes, that's for sure.
Yeah, how many colors do you have out right now? Just
We're right now we got rid of gold, but everybody wants that back. But it's black, blue, silver, and red.
black, blue, silver, and red.
Everything we make is in those colors but the cranks.
Gold is very popular.
Yeah.
And when the cranks are black and white?
Just black.
Just black.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Too many SKUs, man. I can't afford all those SKUs here. So
Yeah, no, that makes sense. But and is that a paint job on the?
yeah, this is the Mabo. So this is the box specific bike. So if you wanted a Mabo box bike, you would get that. It only comes, those colors come, and that paint job comes.
But
with
it's
the
not
box
like these
bike.
guys can get anodized versions of this
You
crank.
anodize an aluminum frame, you're gonna have some funky stuff going on.
Okay.
The welds are different colors.
Well,
things
no,
like
but what
that.
about just cranks?
The cranks? You could take those apart and do it. I guess,
Oh,
if
people
you
could
want
powder
to.
coat them themselves if they
Yeah,
wanted
yeah,
a different
if you
color,
want,
right? But then they're going to lose their logo.
Yeah, well, that's right. They bought them. Okay.
Yeah. We're like, hey, I improved
Okay,
on your project.
okay.
Okay, so everything comes. Yeah, you should bring gold back.
Yeah,
It's
we're
so
going to do
used.
some limited runs. I think we're going to do purple next. We're talking about.
Oh, that's
so,
a cool idea.
We'll just do whatever amount of each of the colors and kind of keep that kind of going. We did that in the past. It was kind of successful. We did some lime greens. We've done some pinks. We've done some purples in the past. We've done that.
Pink's become a really popular color.
Yeah,
in
but by
bike
the time
world.
it takes me 6 months to turn that into something, the color changes. So I got to think about what the color is in the future. And when I had intents, funny story, I had little kids. I had a 3 and 9-year-old or wherever they were, and I'd always ask them, what's a cool color? And they'd say, hey, purple's cool, Daddy. And I would make my next year model of the color my kids told me.
And they were right.
And they were pretty
That's
much right.
They're better than the marketing guys.
Yeah.
A lot of people are getting fired.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you're allowed to do this. I'm asking. Are you allowed to call the companies that you're friends with and be like, hey, what colors do you have coming out? Or does
Yeah, but the complete bike guys don't play that game. So if you buy a complete bike, you won't see colors on it. That's a whole aftermarket thing, right? So this is what we cater to, is the aftermarket guys, the guys who build the bike. BMX guys buy a frame and build them.
Yeah, but let's just say you knew a certain brand was coming out with a certain color and a certain color. They can't feed that info.
Yeah, I could find that out. What actually the other way around, actually, I get a request from some of these brands, hey, will you make this brake lever in this color for me for my complete bike?
Okay.
So I already kind of know, and I have to say yes or no to that, and I always tell them, well, we'll do it for you, but when the guy has a warranty claim, we don't carry that pink color brake. So
Right.
you're on your own with that one, right?
Okay.
That's the way the bike industry works. So yeah, we kind of already know what's going on out there.
Yeah. So what's that? Like a cross? So there's a word for that when you're working with somebody else. Like, are they just buying your parts and putting them on the bike, or is it?
The collaboration.
Yeah. Is it a collaboration?
Right now, I think like with the Mabo guys, it's a collaboration for
Okay.
sure. So we're working on a new bottom bracket system. We're going to try to create a new standard for bottom brackets. So it takes a frame guy and a component guy to do together. So we're doing that together, right? So these kind of things.
What about in the case, like we were saying before, so many of the guys that you rode against and stuff are in parallel or similar positions to yourself. Now that you guys all know each other from then, does talk happen that way? I mean, or that's why you throw stuff on SE's bikes? Or?
Well, SE became because they have a team and they need sponsorship. They need a better fork because SE doesn't, the fork that comes in the bike's really heavy. So they
Right.
need a better fork. So Todd came to us, we sponsor our team, and he does in turn purchase stuff from us to help us support his team. So we'll probably either give his team cash or give them product so the team can go faster.
Okay.
And in turn, Todd will buy stuff from our factory
Okay.
in our name. Right?
And you're
So-
putting those super light box forks on
On
his
the team.
bikes. Okay,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the team.
Yeah, but
track
not the
bike.
ones he sells because that kids like to build those up. Yeah.
No, plus that landing gear is just one of the most popular
Right,
forks
it's pretty cool.
on the
Yeah.
ever,
But
right?
it's not a race fork.
No, it's not.
Right,
It's like,
too heavy.
dude, it's like the biggest, fattest fork ever,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
Oh, okay. Well, that was interesting.
Cool.
No, I really like your forks. Okay, once again, thank you, man.
no, my pleasure.
Yeah.
We would shake hands, but it's COVID, so
It's COVID time. Some of you guys are non-believers, but we're sticking to it. So, yeah, some of the riders are like telling me like it's gonna end when the thing. I'm like, whatever, guys.
while I'm old, I'm gonna take it safe.
Yeah, we don't want to kill Toby Henderson. Toby Henderson, everybody, Race BMX show. I don't know who's next, but this one will be coming out soon enough.
See you guys.